everyone, this is Professor Benjamin, and the objective of this video is to walk you through step 2 of the scientific method assignment. If you have missed part 1, please go back and watch the video under the module walkthrough of the scientific method assignment step 1, and that will walk you through the scientific method worksheet as well as the requirements for this assignment. Right now, I'm going to walk you through step 2, independent versus dependent variable worksheet. If we have time in this worksheet, which I think we will, we'll also work into step 3, which is the hypothesis worksheet. Again, like I said in step 1 video, you will be uploading 4 documents for this assignment. So step 1, step 2, step 3, step 4 in Canvas. The assignments need to be in docs or PDF format. You can upload them all at once, or you can upload them at different times, and they will show in Canvas those different times that they're uploaded. If you're using Google, your Google Docs to be able to complete these assignments, then you need to make sure that you hit File, Download, and export the document as a Word document to then upload it to Canvas. I cannot open a .pages document. So let's walk through step 2. In step 1, we learned about the scientific method, and we also learned a little bit about variables. But this is going to drive home the idea of variables. So independent versus dependent variable assignment, you're going to open up the assignment, and at the top it gives you definitions. So it tells you the definitions of an independent and dependent variable, as well as what constants are. So an independent variable is the one thing you intend to vary in the experiment. A dependent variable is the thing that will change that you intend to measure as a quantitative assessment of the effect. Now that's a lot of jargon and it's crazy, but I'm just going to give you a little idea here. If down here you will see a good tool that you can use to be able to find the answer to these is you will see then people will have higher UV, and I'll show you that in a little bit, but there's a little trick that will be able to tell you what the dependent variable is, what you're going to measure with a quantitative assessment of the effect. The constants are those things that stay the same, and you worked on this a little bit in the previous assignment, but they're the things that stay the same. So you need to think about that. What is going to stay the same in the experiment from person to person so that it does not impact the experiment. And I'll walk you through a couple of these so that you have an idea of what you're doing. So you're going to do 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 of these. Using the statement, you're going to fill in what the independent variable is, the dependent, and then the constant. You can just type your answer right here and then save it and upload it to Canvas. So let's walk through the first one. Number 1, if skin cancer is related to ultraviolet light, then people with a high exposure to UV light will have a higher frequency of skin cancer. So this question is asking us that we know skin cancer is related to ultraviolet light, and we're saying that if people have more exposure to ultraviolet light, they most likely will have a higher frequency of skin cancer. So that's really what the experiment is that we are going to look at the amount of time that people are exposed to UV light. So that's the independent variable. So we're gonna expose people in this experiment to less UV light and more UV light to see whether they have higher frequency of skin cancer. So the independent variable in this experiment would be the amount of time exposed to UV light. The dependent variable then will be what we're going to measure. And what we're going to measure in this is skin cancer frequency. So we're going to measure whether the frequency increases or decreases depending upon the amount of UV radiation individuals receive. What would be the constants in this experiment? So think about it for a second. What would be the constants? Well, number 1, everyone needs to be wearing the same amount of clothes, correct? So you can't have some people who have long sleeve shirts and pants on and a hat on, and then have other people with tank tops and shorts on. That's not going to work. You need to have everyone have the uniform same type of clothing on so that you can measure, right, whether so you want to take that variable out of the equation. The other things you may want to do, female or male, you may want to do age range, needs to stay the same. So we're going to look at 100 males between the ages of 30 and 40. We're going to, in the experiment, we're going to expose them to 8 hours of UV light, and we're going to see if they increase or decrease in their cancer rates, right? So we can put an experimental group and a control group, so we could do that. We could also do the fact that maybe we need to have white individuals who have a different melanoma content, right, than African American individuals. So we would have to make sure that we have constants in there, right, because or maybe individuals of Irish descent, right? A lot of individuals of Irish descent have very pale skin, and so they have a higher frequency of burn, which can lead to higher frequency of skin cancer. So we would look at all of these things. We need to make sure we have constants across the board so that we don't have those variables in there to look at. We don't want other things to influence the experiment. So you need to be super detailed with the individuals or the constants that are in the experiment. Maybe individuals are being experimented. So what location is this happening? Is everyone sitting on a beach, or is everyone sitting in a wooded area? So there's all those constants have to stay the same. So I want you to tell me what constants you would have in your experiment to make sure that it's valid. Okay, so that's number one. Let's do number two. If leaf color change is related to temperature, then exposing plants to low temperatures will result in changes in leaf color. So this is asking us if leaf color change is related to temperature, so we know leaf color is related to temperature, then exposing plants to low temperatures will result in changes in leaf color. So we're going to expose the plants to low temperatures and see what happens to their leaves. And then we'll be able to look at the leaf color. So the temperature would be the independent variable because we're going to put some to hot temperatures and to higher temperatures and some to lower temperatures to see what happens if the leaf color changes. And then, of course, the dependent variable would be the leaf change color. So does it change or doesn't it? It's what we can measure. So we can measure the amount of color in the leaf that changes. And then the constants would be, there's a lot. Number one is we could make sure they're all the same type of tree. So are they all oak trees or are they all maple leaf trees? Because maybe leaf color changes occur differently in different types of trees. So we need to take that variable out of the experiment. So maybe we do this experiment only to one type of tree. Or maybe we do it to a mature tree and not a young tree, because maybe there's a difference in leaf changing colors in mature trees, when they change colors to what temperature in young trees versus large trees. We want to make sure that all the trees are given the same amount of water, all the trees are exposed to the same amount of sunlight. So we need to make sure that we have all of those as constants in the experiment to make sure they do not influence the experiment with factors that we don't want or variables that we're not really monitoring for. So that's an example for that. So I'm going to let you try and do number 3 and number 3, 4, 5, and 6 using that idea of what we talked about. Usually, after then, this is that trick of the trade, after then, you can use this a lot of times as the dependent variable. So what are we looking for, right? So then increasing resting room temperature will increase. So here we go. So this resting room temperature will increase animal metabolism. So, but actually here, this is what we're measuring animal metabolism here. So you want to look kind of after the then statement for the dependent variable. The independent variable usually comes before. The dependent variable comes after the then. And then the constants are what's going to remain the same within this. So for example, let's go with this one. If the speed of plant growth is related to the hardness of the shell of its seed, then softening the seed with water prior to planting will hurry germination. So if the speed of the plant is related to the hardness of the shell of its seed, so the independent variable is the hardness of the shell of the seed, and then what we're going to look at and how we're going to measure it is whether germination occurs or not, right? So whether germination occurs or not is the dependent variable, and then we have to look at this. So we're going to look at whether the seed stays soft or if it hardens, and that plays a role in that germination. So the if, usually the independent variable comes before the if, and then the dependent variable comes after the then. So take a look at that and try these, okay? Hopefully this video helped you, hopefully this video is helping you walk through some of these. So I'm just going to spend the last 5 minutes on the hypothesis worksheet. So we're going to look at the next step. So here we go. Here's the hypothesis worksheet, which is step 3 in the assignment. A hypothesis is a possible explanation of why something may have happened or a prediction of what might happen. A hypothesis is only valid if it can be tested. Otherwise, your hypothesis is merely a guess. Many times scientists use if-then statements for their hypothesis. For example, if I drink water, then I will not become dehydrated. So you're going to fill in this chart whether it can be tested or not. The amount of carbon dioxide in the atmosphere has an effect on planet's temperature. So can this be tested or can it not be tested? It can be tested because we can look at the amount of carbon dioxide in the atmosphere and then we can relate that to temperature. We can measure both of those and we can use graphs to show that. That is really what we're using to show climate change is happening. And climate change is driven by carbon dioxide emissions. People can run faster on Pluto than on Mars. Well, this can't be tested because we can't put humans on Pluto or Mars, so we can never really make this an experiment. We can guess about it, but we cannot really perform the experiment because we can't have people on Mars or Pluto yet. So that's definitely something. Adding salt water will cause plants to die. We can test this. So we can have a group where we add salt water to it and where we don't add salt water to it, and we can perform an experiment. So I'm going to let you fill in the rest of those, whether they can or can't be. And then here's the observation, and from this observation you're going to make an if-then statement, a hypothesis. A teenager observed that he had 3 new pimples that the night after eating a chocolate bar. So we can make an if-then statement. If I eat chocolate, then I will have pimples. Or you could say, if I refrain from eating chocolate, then I will not have pimples grow. So an if-then statement, and then you can perform an experiment on that to see if it happens. So you can refrain from eating chocolate and see if pimples show up, or you cannot. Now, a lot of people say that it exacerbates the situation. Caffeine and other, and chocolate has caffeine in it, can exacerbate the situation. But, you know, a lot more has to do with genetics and your body type on whether you will have acne or not. So this is something that plays a role in that. So now you'll do an observation for this and a hypothesis for this. A little boy observed the leaves on the trees change colors when the temperature was lower. Hint, hint, you did this in the last worksheet. So your if-then statement is if temperatures are lower, then the leaves will change colors. So that's your hypothesis that you would make, or your statement that you will make, your educated guess, and then you can test that. So I'll let you do number 3 and 4, and you'll fill in that worksheet. So this video, I hope it helped you through steps 2 and 3 of the project, of the assignment that's due this week.